Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Busty Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show many times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian and hope Dean Winchester dies.
Yeah, we are both Asian, and that is super relevant, I think, this episode. Well, this week we will be discussing 507, The Curious Case of Dean Winchester, written by Sarah Gamble, story by Sarah Gamble and Jenny Klein, directed by Robert Singer.
What is Jenny Klein's deal? Is Jenny Klein the cause of this evil? Probably not, because Sarah Gamble is the cause of much evil, but, like, did she make it worse?
She wrote Caged Heat.
That one has
which
a
is the Meg
Steele
Steele
kiss,
episode.
So I think she's fine, and she probably has never done anything wrong. Probably. That's what I think.
I am familiar with all of these episodes. She was in Out with the Old, which I think it's an episode I remember from season 7. And then Torn and Frayed, which I think is the Samandriel episode. She's also part of Rock and a Hard Place, which is the new, like, where they're re-virginized.
Just my imagination is well-liked.
The Sam episode, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny that, like, when you get to the further on in Supernatural, you'll have, like, one episode in a season that's just the Sam episode. Like, they give him nothing.
There's not enough Sam episodes in the world, yeah.
Well, this is also a Robert Singer episode, which is so true. It's so true. It literally is. Like, Robert Singer, I know who you are. And we know each other intimately, and I know him when I see him. Like, there's this one shot where it's supposed to be funny, so it's fine. But, like, Dean is climbing up the stairs, and Sam looks at him and then points at the, like, floor level, and then it pans and it zooms to the number 2. And I was like, Robert Singer is here with us right now. Well, what did you know about this episode before going in?
Absolutely nothing. Like,
yeah.
When I encountered pieces of it, it was like, oh, I know this happens in Supernatural somewhere, but I didn't know it was, like, this episode. Like, I know about our mutual Ellie being, like, the #1 Sam Patrick warrior, but I didn't know until midway through that Patrick would be here.
They kind of slay. Like, Patrick slays as a character.
Yeah. He does feel kind of heterosexual, but, like, I feel like Sam could change him.
He is so gay or European. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I think he was just so European that I couldn't see the queerness. But, like, I feel like I view him as a guy who's, like, heteroflexible, and Sam is, like, his exception or something.
No, that man's bisexual for real. Yeah, right, I believe it in my heart. I am number 2 Sam Patrick truther.
Nice. I'll take number 3 then. I think there's very few people.
I mean, their dynamic is fun, and Patrick is, well, sympathetic and, like, not evil. Like,
yeah.
Even the show acknowledges that.
If they had encountered each other later on when Sam was further in his witch journey, like, I don't know.
Sam could learn a thing or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam loves a witch.
Yeah. And Irish people.
Oh my god, you're right! No, yeah. Rowena is Scottish, I think.
No, I was talking about Eileen. Do you not care about Eileen?
Sorry, I was thinking about Rowena. As I usually am all the time.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Sam, Patrick, Rowena, Eileen, and Max Bane's polycule will truly conquer the world one day, yeah.
Exactly.
Right, I knew that there was going to be a scene, like, in a brothel with Asian sex workers, and that Dean would like lift the blanket of the guy to like
Look
check
at his dick.
something. I guess, was that what it was?
You know, I see people being like, and Dean is bisexual because he checks this guy out.
Yeah, no, I at first
Which is
knew that
crazy.
scene just for the blanket movement
Lift,
thing,
yeah.
and everyone was just being like, "Oh my god, buy Dean Winchester for real." And then at some point, Danica watched this
Completely
episode,
unrelated
and then
from bisexuality.
she was like, "This episode is so horrible." I did not remember which episode. She just told me about the scene and was like, "This is so horrible." And I was like, "Wow." By Dean Winchester posting ignores racism once more, I see.
Literally. It's always like, by Dean Winchester posting ignores racism and misogyny. Like, why do we do this? I feel like there's sufficient evidence if you want to look for it.
You can just find other scenes where Dean Winchester is bisexual and not being misogynistic or racist.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know. I feel like checking someone's dick, like, is not a particularly bi thing to do. It's a very straight man dick measuring contest thing to do.
Yeah. Like straight guys love dicks. They do, right? Like, they love to draw it, they love to talk about it, to joke about it.
But, you know, whatever. And then obviously I knew about the little like leap in the air that Dean does when he comes down from
he is cute.
the apartment building, because people put that in AMVs all the time.
Yeah.
I think those were the bits that I recognized when I came to them, but yeah, I didn't know anything in advance from the title, and I knew very little of the plot.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that there was an episode where Sam bluffs so hard and so raw in a poker game. And I knew that there's an episode where Dean gambles away his age. I didn't, for some reason, connect the dots that they were the same episode, which is so funny.
Poker shows up a good amount in Supernatural.
Yeah. I mean, like, while watching the episode, I was like, oh yeah, they're one and the same, but that was like a while watching the episode realization. Prior to it, I just knew that Dean was gonna be Benjamin Button or whatever. That's not true. That's not what Benjamin Button is.
That's not what Benjamin Button is, but they did mention it.
Is there a dance sequence this episode?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no dance sequence. Nothing prior has ever happened in Supernatural.
It's true.
Yeah, we start the episode with a woman reading like a newspaper or something on her couch. Her husband comes in to the house, runs upstairs, doesn't greet her or anything, and she is like, haha, not even a hello, whatever. But then we go to the bathroom. The guy is gripping the sink just like in all the movies, and he is looking at the mirror. And in the mirror, he is rapidly aging. Like, there's this one shot where he bends down and he has a full head of hair. And he goes below the mirror. And then when he comes back up again, it's bald. Like, his hair, his head is bald. Which is pretty fun, if I'm being honest. And yeah, it's just happening. He's just getting old. He stumbles against a glass, like, case. And then it smashes. And then the wife, like, hears this, goes upstairs, goes to him. She opens the door of the bathroom, and then she does, like, a horror movie scream. And I was like, it would be so funny if the only reason she's screaming is because there's, like, her husband is old. But it literally is.
I mean, he's also dead.
No, I mean, you don't know that because the way they say it is he died of old age. So he could have just been lying down there, and you won't know until you go down and check that he's dead. But I guess it's also like the aspect of there's a foreign guy. Not foreign. Like, there's an outsider in my house. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the scream sounds like the word no, which I think is a very silly thing to scream. Like, were you expecting this? Like, no is like, you like understand the situation and you don't like it. I don't think she understands the situation yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went to the witch that makes you old. Question, I have no clue how the fuck this age thing works, because like the guy later in the brothel, like he wins his years back, so like he becomes younger. But like this guy was 25 and like he lost like what, like 70 years or something. Like, did he want to become like a baby? Like, what?
No, he just kept on betting and betting and betting in the hopes that he'll win it back.
Okay.
And also, the way it seems
like,
is like you don't go
25,
unless the
you...
guy tells you that you ought to go. So he can just keep you there on the chair.
Like, he was 25 and he was like, I want to be 15. Like, what age was he aiming for as a 25-year-old?
You're right. And also, why is he... I just did not connect the dot that he was 25 because he looked 35 or 40.
Yeah, no, but they said at the morgue he was 25,
Yeah,
right?
he was. Yeah.
Yeah, like, what age was he aiming for? And I think maybe you don't necessarily have to cash them in, because the guy who wins 13 years later, I don't see him grow younger looking. But it's like, so like, what determines whether your years get cashed in or if you're just adding to your lifespan?
I don't know. Like, I think the guy cashed it in. Like, it's not immediate.
Okay, it's just more subtle. Yeah,
like
years,
Bobby takes a while to grow older. I was confused a little bit by the fact that this guy was 25 and then he added 25 years and then he was 50 and died from old age. But no. What it was he just kept adding to the 25. Yeah. 25 is just the beginning. Like, that's the initial.
Yeah, okay. And it doesn't have to be, because Sam starts with 5.
Yeah. Sam! I love Sam Winchester!
Yeah,
you know, do you know the lore, whatever, that like Jared Padalecki is actually really good at poker?
No, I was not aware of this.
Apparently that was something I hear a lot when this episode is in discussion, that like they gave Sam the poker, like he won poker with the poker guy because he is actually good at poker IRL.
Well, Sam Winchester is not good at poker IRL. Jared Padalecki is. Those separate beings.
This is true. So sorry. So very sorry.
Yeah, don't say that about Sam. But yeah.
Never compare Sam Winchester to Jared Padalecki.
Yeah, those guys just look similar. That's it.
Yeah. Unfortunate. So Sam and Dean in a hospital. They're holding up their CDC badges, and the doctor is like, what? You expect me to believe your CDC? And for a while, they're like, oh no. But then the doctor goes, it's because you guys are early and the CDC never is.
Well, Dean says new administration, a change you can believe in, which is like an Obama thing, I suppose, which I did think was kind of funny. I don't think Dean votes, though.
CDC is a government body.
Yeah. The Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, but I thought they were like different. I thought CDC was kind of like a World Health Organization thing. So they're not of the US. No,
it's US specific.
I wonder if we have something like that. Do we have a CDC? We do. We have Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Or do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you did?
No, because I am not sure. Also, yeah, we have Philippine Center for Disease Prevention and Control. So we have a CDC. Wow. I mean, we ought to, obviously, but I didn't know that.
Everyone should.
I just thought it was like a branch of the WHO. Of the WHO.
Oh, yeah. No, the US's control over the world discourse will do that to you.
Yeah, well, like they go into the morgue, the doctor pulls out the corpse of Mr. Savior, and he's 80 years old. Fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So he gave away 60 years, 55?
55.
Damn, why? I mean, you're right. I'm right. It's because he just kept on betting. But kind of crazy. Like, at some point, just give up. Like, just accept being a 40 or 50-year-old man.
If he won all 55, he would be negative 30 years old. Like, I don't think he wants that. He would also be dead.
He was just in it for the game. He was like, I want the thrill. Yeah. Also, like, 80-year-old, I don't think you die of old age at 80-year-old.
I see. I don't really
80
know
years
what,
old.
like, is it like what age you were meant to die? Like, it zooms you forward, and then if it's past that, you die? Like,
well, I feel like 80 years old is not death of old age. That's just old age.
yeah, I agree.
But whatever. He was born in 1984. He's 25, as we said. And the doctor ran the DNA twice. So it is him.
Oh, the U.S. life expectancy in 2009 was 78.34. I think.
For white men?
Just for people.
In general.
Yeah, so you could die.
What is it for white men? What's... I'm sure those are different.
Yeah.
It could be smaller for them.
It is lower for men typically.
Yeah, because women live longer.
Oh, it was 76.2. Wait, is that?
So he may have died of old age.
Yeah, he could have. But also, like, life expectancy also involves dying of things that aren't old age. So
no, yeah. How is life expectancy the same as average life, like, length?
Average lifespan?
Yeah.
Think.
Because, like, it could just be that less children are dying if that's the case.
Yeah, life expectancy is just average age of death. He could have died of old age, indeed.
Yeah, Bobby apparently gave them this case, which is interesting that he did lead them there already. But he did. And he's asking if there's anyone else missing in town, etc., etc. And he tells Sam and Dean to check it out. And as they're about to hang up, Dean asks, like, okay, how are you doing, Bobby? Dean was like, yeah, like, just in general, how are you doing? And Bobby doesn't like this. He, like, goes, oh, you mean my legs? Well, I'm weeping in my Haagen-Dazs, idiot. And then he hangs up. And, I mean, this is like, Bobby is a bit frustrated with everything this episode. So, this is like this is a running thing this entire time. He's pissed at Dean specifically. It is fascinating. It is so funny to me because at the end of this episode, Dean and Bobby has a heart-to-heart. And the show makes it a point to make Sam leave. Yeah. Which is hilarious to me. That's literally their coworker. Like, when Dean was like, Bobby, we're family.
He's off to get a gonorrhea shot, but I think he's spreading an STI to Patrick first through the typical method.
Bruh. Well,
Sam was too busy having gay sex to give the don't kill yourself conversation to Bobby.
Don't kill yourself, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and also I think that after the phone call ends, the shot lingers on Bobby for a second alone in his house, and he just looks kind of dejected. So yeah, it's a precursor to, like, he's being all sarcastic and stoic and things, but he's going through it.
Yeah. How many do we know how many weeks or maybe months it's been since?
Well, okay.
Because this was in November.
Sam and Dean departed a week, like, for a week. They were apart for a week.
No, let's just look at, because it will show you, like,
weeks.
It's in November. This is in November. When was 501? So Lucifer Rising was in May.
Oh, Sympathy for the Devil was in September, though. Like, we can't do it 1-to-1 because of, like, hiatuses and things.
No. Like, November. In the timeline, not the showing. Because this was aired in October. But in the timeline, it's November. So this was in November. And Bobby gets stabbed around May, perhaps June. So it's been a while.
Wait, so it's been 6 months?
Yeah, I suppose. And they're waiting for the apocalypse to start still.
Wait, how has it been 6 months if he got stabbed on the day one of the apocalypse starting but not starting, and then Sam and Dean were apart for a week, and then we're looking for the cult for 3 weeks, and then had like 2 cases since then. Like that doesn't make 6 months.
Free to Be You and Me is apparently in August.
So how long were they apart? Because it was like a week later sort of situation. Are we saying that like between 501 and 502 there was like 2 months? Oh,
How is that possible?
August. But then 503 was only a week later, and then they come back together like immediately because Sam calls right after the Lucifer dream, and then Dean calls back like basically the next day after the Zachariah shit.
Yeah.
So.
And then 3 weeks. Okay, and then I suppose we don't know how long.
How long until 506?
Last episode, yes. Could have been a while. And then we also don't know how long between that and this. So there's that.
Okay.
They really will be spending an amount of time in Supernatural that we don't see. So he could have been like, Cass, we've talked about this at any other time than the Crane shot. Because, I mean, I'm sure they have talked to Cass in between, in those 2 months.
In between 501 and 502?
No, like 502 and 503. Because we don't know how...
No.
What the fuck is this timeline?
No, it's not. It's not, though, because...
Bobby was still in the hospital.
503, it was only a week. Yeah, it was only a week. Because they said, like, they had a 1 week later thing, and then Sam immediately called Dean. And, like, that
what is happening? It seems to me immediate that I suppose Bobby's recovery would have been quite long in the hospital.
Yeah, I guess he would have been in the hospital for a few weeks. Okay, so it has to be a big gap between 501 and 502. No, because... No, it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense.
This is all a stupid conversation. Whatever. Supernatural, so... The timeline is not good enough for me.
Sam and Dean are interviewing the wife of one of the missing persons in the city or town. They see a photo of him with a tattoo on his arm. They also learn that he always works a bit late on Tuesdays. So Dean's like, that's suspicious. So he searches the house and looks inside the pockets of the husband, Cliff's coat. He sees a receipt for Madame Leo's Golden Palace for $250, and he immediately clocks that this is a brothel. I think I would just think that it's like a restaurant or a spa or something. I don't know what it is about the name besides Dean Winchester's.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much. I would assume that it's because of the date, and it's like working late. Well, he's not. He's somewhere. So
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I guess when I assume affairs, I assume people are going to expensive restaurants or something. But yeah, I guess it could also be this.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be an affair thing. More of just sex work, buying sex work thing.
Yeah, but I guess when I hear working late, I assume affairs usually. And I guess, I don't know, I'm like, maybe they just have a regular date on Tuesdays. He and Sam go to Madame Leo's Golden Palace.
Yeah. I have a question. What is the rate of having an Asian district in the United States for, like, towns? Because this doesn't seem like a particularly big town. Or is it? I'm
They
not
said
sure.
it was a big town because earlier on the phone with Bobby, they say there's like 2 missing people, but that's normal for a place this size or with this population.
We don't know what the population is. It just says couple missing person usual for a town this size.
Yeah, but that implies that the town is large enough.
What's the difference between a town and a fucking city? Like the rurality?
It's like a population.
Well, yeah, I assume, but
it's like most cities need to have at least 100,000. Or no, what? No.
So this is a town, but it's not a small town.
Well,
it's not a city either.
I think the different like censuses and things have different definitions because like this other thing says like it has to be under 2,000 to be a town. That can't be whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I was
Sometimes
just
they say
wondering,
town.
like, because it is an Asian district or whatever it is, the place that they're in. Because later when they're walking outside of the motel, it has like a lot of signs that are like in Chinese or whatever script, the Asian scripts that are the signs written in.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is the commonality of that in the United States? I'm not sure.
I mean, there's some cities with well-known Chinatowns.
Oh, of course there is, but
yeah.
that's why I was asking: is this a small town or not? Because like I'm assuming if it's a big town, there really would be, or a big city, there really would be. But what is the?
We don't
is
even
this
know
stuff?
what state this is in, so it's hard to say. Oh, what the fuck?
It's in
Wait,
Chicago,
sorry.
Illinois.
Yeah, okay. How do the wiki people get where an episode takes place when it doesn't say?
Well, I don't.
They call
know.
Chicago a town? They're crazy.
Wait, so we're in Chicago, Illinois.
If we're in Chicago, yeah, I believe that there's an Asian district there. If we're in Chicago, yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Why did they say town? Okay. Wait, but also, where do they say it's Chicago at any point in the episode?
Well, it's Control F, Chicago.
And it's nowhere in the transcript.
Maybe it's in like the script.
Maybe. I think it's no questions about an Asian district in Chicago, given the size of Chicago. They're at Madame Leo's, and they walk in. I mean, it's a brothel. What are the decorations like? It's like red and pink.
Red. Yeah.
Are the colors, and Dean's like, well, I hope that my dick can get hard when I'm this age. And Sam says, you will die before you can test whether or not your dick can get so hard when you are old. And then they stop outside of room 44, which, like, they hate this client so much. Like, they want this client to die.
Yeah.
Like, they put him in room 44. Like, first off, I'm surprised they would make a room 44.
A room
like, I feel
44,
like if I was a sex worker here, I would not step foot in there. I'd be like, what with the rates of violence against sex workers? I'm not going inside the fucking death room. Who decided that this was a number? But, like, to put a client in here, they hate his ass. His blah, 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 oh, the second girl was for free. That is so not true. They probably just charged you double and said that the second girl was for free to, like, get you to pay up, bro. They want you to die. They put you in room 44. But yeah, everyone knows that 4 is, like, an unlucky number in China, because like it sounds like death. Yeah, okay. No, like, yeah, I'm still shocked that they would make a room 44. I know that it's just I think it was just Sarah Gamble being like, I have a very surface level understanding of Chinese culture, and in an episode where people die, I think that it would be fun to put an unlucky number there. But I feel like if you think about it from, like, the standpoint of, like, people running this business, they would not make a room 44. But yeah, anyway, I won't get stuck on this because there's more things coming up.
There's hospitals here in the Philippines that do not have a fourth floor. You know, like, I feel like it's a big deal.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that in like an industry where there's a high rate of violence against the employees, like you would not put a room 44, you're not risking that shit. They break in, there is a guy, and he is young, and he is having sex with 2 women, and they are both Asian.
Yeah, there's like a part where like only one girl is above the sheet. Mm-hmm. And then the other woman comes out, and Dean is like, ooh. Ah!
Yeah.
Horrible. And they're both Asian. Both Asian.
Yeah. And they're both Asian. And
I mean, I don't know how we're going to talk about this. We have said everything that needs to be said.
Yeah, we've said it already in Tall Tales, I think.
Yeah. One of our most listened to episodes, that one, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, if you only listen to us because we're both Asian, that is hilarious to me. So, like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, we really do not provide that much. We did a little bit of research for one episode, and then we went back to, like, doing nothing forever. Yeah.
But, I don't know. There isn't much to say that hasn't already been said. Like, he did come to this place specifically because he wanted to sleep with Asian women, and he is a white man, and his wife is a white woman, and yeah, I don't know. I wonder what's going on there psychologically. Nothing good.
Yeah, and Dean is very amused by all this because he also has an Asian fetish.
Yep.
Well. But yeah, there's like a zoom in on the guy's tattoo, which is, I was like, Robert Singer, I see you.
So Sam notices this and realizes, oh, this is like the guy that we're looking for, even though he's young. And he proves that it's the guy by pulling his ID.
Do you know, Mr. Whitlow? Oh, you don't? That's strange. Because you're carrying his wallet.
That was Sam practicing his poker skills. That was the thespian hanging out.
We need to put Sam in the theater. Well, who would Sam play?
I don't know. Like, I mean, we already know that he was tree number 2 in ours.
He literally should play Don John. We've said this before.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, but
of course.
Well, Sam is Don John in Super Ado About Natural. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if him being Don John means he would be best at playing Don John.
This is true.
I mean? Like, I feel like he needs to play a role that he's, like, having fun in. I feel like if it's too close to home, he might not be able to get into it.
Well, with what role would he have fun in?
Tree number 2 in our town, but...
you know, I think he could play, Curly. Why not? I have a very limited repertoire of, like, stage stuff that I know.
Sam sing?
Yeah, why not? I think people would be like, it's so sweet that they're letting him sing on stage, even though he's bad at it.
I think Sam could play Curly in just like an absolutely ass production of Oklahoma.
You know that scene in When Harry Met Sally where they sing and Harry does that little dance?
Sam should do it.
I think Sam should 100% do it. Like, his practice is singing along to the When Harry Met Sally version of
Sorry with
the Fringe on Top.
Yeah, so Dean goes over to the bed and he pulls off the sheets to look at the guy's dick, but also to check for a birthmark that his wife said was somewhere, probably on his dick. Cliff asks the 2 women who were in there with him, could you give us some privacy? And then there's a shot over at the two of them in a mirror, and then Dean winks at them, and I think he should die, probably, is what I think about that. Also, just in case, like, people haven't listened to the Tall Tales episode, or, like, just don't remember, because I feel like we keep referring you back there, but, like, not everyone's gonna do that. I guess I feel like sometimes us being very vague about what we hate about scenes where, like, an Asian woman is portrayed in a sexual light, or where, like, Dean is attracted to an Asian woman, just makes it seem like we're against, like, people being attracted to Asian individuals, or, like, against, like, Asian women doing sex work, and, like, that's not the case. I think what it comes down to, well, first, like, attraction to an Asian individual and, like, an Asian fetish are different things. And, like, Dean specifically, it's pretty clear that he has an Asian fetish, what with the Busty Asian Beauty subscription and everything. And the issues with, like, Asian fetishes is just that, like, I feel like it goes beyond being attracted to specific features. It's also, like, there's an idea of what an Asian woman is in your mind that's built off of, like, the US's contact with Asia, which has been very, like, colonial, very, like, war-based.
Yeah. It's about the perspective of the exotic, which is what a lot of Asian fetishization is based on.
Yeah, like, there's, like, an attraction to othering, to, like, the idea that they wouldn't be very good at English, or, like, have, like, timid personalities or things are, like, a big part of it, like, the desire for power over someone that you think comes from, like, them being Asian. And then I think specifically with Asian women and sex work, like, I feel like it really just comes back to the Page Act for me, where, you know, it was, like, the first law in the US that was, like, barring immigration based off of race, and it was specifically to prevent Chinese women from entering the US, because a lot of the Chinese women entering the US were, like, coming to do sex work, but, like, also, like, they did not care about that for any other nationality. It was the idea that Chinese women were uniquely immoral, uniquely dishonest, and, like, having sex with a Chinese woman would, like, give you diseases more than, like, sex work, like, engaging in sex work with any other, like, group of women. And, like, how the idea of Asian women sex work has just been, like, further bolstered by, like, the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And, like, it's just, like, when you portray in, like, a TV show an Asian woman doing sex work, there is that history that you have to contend with. And, like, you have to, like, in Supernatural, where very few Asian women are characters, very few have speaking roles, very few are portrayed as people, the prevalence of Asian women being sexualized and being associated with sex work is, like, a problem. And, like, if, like, these women had lines and personalities, like, I think I would let this episode individually pass, mostly. Also, if Dean didn't do that fucking wink. But, like, it would still be a problem for Supernatural as a whole. But, like, because, like, Supernatural as a whole does this, and because the women here don't have any lines, are just here to be naked briefly and for Dean to find hot briefly, like, it's bad for the episode and it's bad for the show. So, I guess that is our ugh. That is where our ugh-ing comes from.
So, and you know, like how in 504 we were talking about how the ratio of sexualized Asian women in the show, and how, I don't know, like, a lot of times when they have an Asian woman in the show, it always
it's for
either
Dean
falls under a specific stereotype, or for Dean to be attracted to in a specifically because she's Asian way. And with Risa, actually, that's not particularly
that's
the
not
case.
part of it.
But
Right.
with like here, for example, like it's so obviously the case. And
Yeah.
also,
We're in Madame Wheels. Yeah.
because me and Crystal were talking about this episode like just by ourselves prior. We were talking about Leah, and we were talking about how there was an implication of like a sugar daddy situation with her first scene in the show, but the show went out of their way to portray her as separate from that, you know.
Yeah. Like,
And
when
she's
she
a white
shows up
woman.
again, she's like, oh, like, there's more to me than meets the eye or whatever.
Yeah.
And she has an emotional arc.
And
Yeah.
like in this episode, like she is the one who is given that liberty. I mean, obviously it's a different situation, but it's the same issue I have with that woman from El Salvador who spoke Spanish in 505, where I was like, this is fine if it wasn't so obviously like for a punchline. If they have literally any other person in the show who speaks like broken English with a Spanish accent or whatever, for literally any other role or idea, and it's just part of the show that you have characters who are like this all the time. But because they made it intentionally that it was for this intention and it was in a way to make fun of her accent, that makes it offensive. It's about the general like lack of diverse set of characters in the show. And then when they do have someone, it's specifically to point at that difference. That's what's frustrating. And yeah, obviously this one has different layers because Dean is known to have an Asian fetish, but
Sure
I can't
is.
believe Dean is just known to have an Asian fetish. Like, I can just say that and I'm completely right. Like, that's so...
Yeah.
Well,
It's
whatever.
horrible. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the way Dean is like the trashy but lovable everyman character. And it's like, you know, like every red-blooded American man just has an Asian fetish, seems to be what they're trying to say with this character. And it's like, well, I hope
not.
that is not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the women leave after Cliff hands money to only one of them. And that's the last we see of them. He says, like, please don't tell my wife, she thinks I'm dead, and I just want that to continue. He was just gonna stay here? Or I guess he would have left eventually. Whatever. Cliff goes like, okay, like the way that this happened, it was a game. And Sam says, like, Xbox?
Just like me, for real.
I love him. He's so fucking funny.
He's like, just like Yakuza?
Literally. Just like Yakuza. And Cliff goes, what's Xbox? And then he explains that it was a poker game where instead of cash, you play for years. What he won was 25 years of his life. There was a guy who was dealing the chips, and he chanted something over them, and then it worked. He's young again. He says that, you know, his health issues have cleared up, and one of those ladies was here for free, which implies that he was so hot that one of the employees here just wanted to sleep with him, just of her own volition. Which, I mean, it's not impossible that such a thing that would happen. It would happen, but yeah, it is. I don't know. I think there's a specific pride and fantasy involved in, like, being so attractive or charming or whatever that, like it becomes real with a sex worker. And I feel like I feel like sometimes that kind of a fantasy can cause one to overstep boundaries in a situation where one is purchasing services. And I don't know, it's kind of annoying to see it in this episode. The description of the guy who did this, his name's Patrick. He's about 35. He has brown hair and an Irish accent, which is wonderful. It was great to hear it this episode.
Yeah. He has black hair, and I think it looks beautiful. I think I've never thought of Sam as having brown hair before. But like put him beside Patrick and it was like Sam does have brown hair and Patrick has dark brown hair. It's pretty nice.
Slay. He moves around from bar to bar and you don't find him, he finds you. They head out, but like
and
Dean
turns
just lingers in the doorway.
Yeah.
He stays there. The shot stays on him for so long. I'm like, what horrible thing is about to happen now? And the horrible thing that happens is that after Sam has headed out, because Dean's like ashamed to say this in front of him, I think, is he turns around and he tells Cliff, oh, and stay classy. And it's like a moment of like hashtag solidarity between Asian fetishists, I believe. And that is terrible. So yeah, that's that scene.
We go to Sam and Dean. Dean's on the phone with Bobby. And he's relaying, you know, what happened to Bobby. And Bobby is like, oh yeah, there's lore regarding this. And like, you know, traveling card player. If you play him and you win, you get years back. And most folks lose. And like, it is fascinating to me that this is just one guy. Like, he's just been around so long. Yeah. And I also do wonder, like, why is he here in apparently Chicago, Illinois? I mean, when I first formulated that question in my head, I was like, in this small town Americana. And then now it's like, well, he was in Chicago, Illinois, so I guess that's fine. Like, that is a big city.
Yeah, he listened to the Sufjan Stevens song and he was like, I gotta see this.
Exactly. Just like me. I don't know, maybe one day I'll go to Illinois to be like, just like Sufjan Stevens.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe I'll go to Kansas too to be like just like Dean Winchester. But that's super irrelevant. Bobby is asking, are they gonna go to visit a bar? Dean's like, yeah, we're gonna split up. And Bobby's like, okay. And he hangs up. But before we leave Bobby, he gets keys.
His car keys.
And he starts going. So yeah, Bobby is going to the fucking card player.
Mm-hmm.
So Dean is in a bar. Him and Sam has split up. And Dean apparently has a lead. And so he starts asking the bartender about where Patrick is. And at first the bartender wouldn't tell him, but eventually he slides $100 bill. And
100. That wasn't like fake. That wasn't a fake 100, was it? Like he's like actually gave him $100 cash.
Yeah.
Crazy. Inflation is wild. They were like giving $20 bills to like sneak into morgues before this.
Yeah, and Sam scolded him for that, right? Like he gave $40, and Sam was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" No, and the way the thing Dean does too is like, "Oh, my friend Ben told me." And the guy's like, I don't know any Ben. And then he slides Benjamin. What the fuck is his first name? Yeah, Benjamin Franklin. He slides Benjamin Franklin, the $100 bill. It's so corny, but it is super fun. He goes to, I don't know, behind the bar. And also there's this weird scene where he's already walking and then there's a voiceover of the bartender going, round back, take the elevator down. And like, you know, they added it because they forgot, like, they were like, oh, that's so weird. But like, it's not weird. Just don't put like, the voiceover.
Like, Dean just was told the instructions and he's going. That makes sense to me.
And like, when they showed this, I was like, Crystal's gonna be so pissed about this fucking stupid ass voiceover. As he's walking, Bobby is there. And Dean is shocked that Bobby is here. So Bobby was in Sioux Falls. We're back to Google Maps. Sioux Falls to Chicago.
Drive time.
It's all flights. All of them are flights. It's an 8-hour, 40-minute drive.
Wait, how did he get here?
I have no idea. Was it morning and then now it's evening?
Definitely in his
He was
house.
Definitely in Sioux Falls.
We saw him in his house. It's not like he was in Chicago earlier when he discovered the case. I mean, it is night now, but like, it wasn't. Was it that bright earlier today?
I mean,
I don't know. Bars are open late. It could be like past midnight or whatever.
This is true. This is true. So it could be very late right now and very early a while ago. But
yeah, I believe it.
But yeah, Bobby bet on his years and he lost. So now he is. There's this one scene where Bobby goes, "I lost," and then we like do zoom ins, I think. And we see like more crow's feet appear on Bobby's face. How old is Bobby right now?
Supposed to be. I don't know. Well, I guess I should look up Jim Beaver's.
Well, not Jim Beaver,
year.
Bobby Singer. He was born in 1950.
Well, so was Jim Beaver. Okay, so he's like 59 now.
That's not... Is that true?
2009 minus 1950.
No. I know, but like, is that realistic?
I mean, it's Jim Beaver's age. What part's
You're right. You're
Jim
right.
Beaver was born in the same year, so like, yeah, that is what a 59-year-old looks like.
Because that is a 59-year-old.
There.
That's crazy. Well, I'm sorry for disrespecting you, Jim Beaver.
This injury happened less than a year ago. Couldn't he have just like tried to win 1 year? Wouldn't that have done it? Like how?
Maybe again
like,
he kept on trying. Kept on.
Okay. Sure. All right. That works, I guess. I don't know how poker like goes at all, so this makes sense to me, I suppose.
Well, you can't have just 1 year because both of you are gonna bet, so it's at least 2 years.
Oh, so both of you put a chip in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I also know nothing about poker.
Okay, so like he could have put like 1 chip in and Patrick could have put like 24. I have no idea what poker is or involves.
No, it could be like
cards.
he put in 10 and then the other guy put in 15, like that kind. So it's not 24-1.
Patrick doesn't overdo it on like what he puts in because he doesn't want to kill people.
This is true, or is it? Well, maybe he just kept
he
on
wanted to
playing
kill
and
Dean.
playing. He wanted to kill that guy.
That Dean was the one who decided to play for 50.
Yeah.
That wasn't Patrick's
Didn't
urging.
Patrick warn too that like don't do that?
Yeah.
Or that was Sam. He was telling Sam that's a suicide mission. Mm-hmm. Are they in love?
They're in love. I think if Sam and Dean hadn't like had their talk in 505 and like Sam was still feeling like trodden upon in their partnership, he could have considered going with Patrick and learning a thing or two. I believe in this alternate universe.
I am less inclined to believe, but I see the vision.
I think Sam would deliberately lose a lot. I think... Okay, yeah, you're right. He's probably not in a place where he trusts his judgment enough to think that he could, like, mete out justice by taking years from people who won't miss them and giving them to people who would. But...
Not that at all. I just think Sam has a lot of prejudice against supernatural beings still.
This point.
Yeah.
That's true. He has his, for a witch, you're really nice line.
You're really nice. Yeah.
Well, maybe if they'd had sex.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, also, Dean tells Bobby, "Are you kidding me? You played some he witch?" And this is a term that Dean will use a lot during this episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Sarah Gamble, your mind fascinates me. Like, and you also can just say witch.
Yeah, a witch, or I don't know, a wizard.
A warlock.
A warlock, exactly. Bobby has his fair share of gendered comments that are specifically
misogyny or weird misogyny, transphobia related. Combos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we go to a bar, and yeah, Patrick is there. He's talking to two people, one like younger lady and an older man, and he's like doing like what Sam says is armchair psychology later. Every time I hear the word armchair psychology now, I think about that post that's like, armchair psychology is such a funny term because that's really where most psychology happens. Like, it really is in the armchair, so I don't know, guys. Yeah, he's doing like an analysis of character, blah, blah, blah. But Dean just like holds on to him and goes, "Hey, excuse me for a second. Can I borrow you?" And Dean like moves his jacket to show his gun, and Patrick sees this and just goes, "Oh, yeah, of course. Great, good to see you." And I immediately...
He really is gun boy.
Yeah, immediately when he does that, I'm like, I love this guy. I love Patrick. Yeah. I think he's pretty great.
Yeah. He's pretty fun. Yeah, I feel like being shown a gun by like Dean Winchester really brings out the best in people, like Chuck in Monster at the end of this book. He's also very fun when Dean flashes a gun at him.
They go out. They are in the poker table now. And Patrick is like, "Oh, don't worry that you cut me off. I still stole a watch from that guy." And he goes, "Look, I don't know what it is you think I did to your wife or girlfriend, mother or sister, but I just want you to know my feelings were real." So, like, what's the implication here that he was sleeping around?
Yeah.
So true.
I think this is where the heteroflexible comes from. I think he does act pretty straight here. I fear.
No, I think it's just he assumes that if it's a guy, it's like... the boyfriend won't be here. Every single gay guy is non-monogamous. That's not true. That's his perspective, not mine. That's his perspective, not mine.
God, dude, the things people will say. Like, in the latest Doctor Who episode, like...
Did they say
like,
every
the doctor,
gay man is
like,
non-monogamous?
Dude, like... He tells a cop, like, "Oh, like, your girlfriend's gonna say yes, like, I can see the ring in your pocket, and I'm assuming that it's a girlfriend and not a boyfriend, because 90% of men wouldn't want a diamond for an engagement ring," and it's like, what are you saying? What is this? Like, I don't know, it's very fun when you decide to be inclusive by being very confusing and odd.
Well, it's what I'm doing right now. Exactly. I'm just like the doctor for real. Dean raises his eyebrow at this comment, but he goes, "Well, that ain't my problem, man witch." He's really obsessed with this turn of phrase, like he witch, man witch.
I feel like he just feels like something in his world is being challenged by a man being a witch. Like, leave the guy alone, bro.
This is queer coding.
Like, honestly,
Patrick is being queer coded right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is like you think that Patrick is trans in some direction, or that Dean's being like big gay, that you're a man and a witch.
No, yeah. He's going, "Are you gay or a witch?"
Well, because it's established in Malleus Maleficarum that Dean, like, hates witches more than he hates any other supernatural being, and we don't know why exactly.
Yeah, and he is misogynistic, so having a witch not be a woman, it's like, it's breaking glass like ceilings, I suppose.
Switch from, like, bitch to son of a bitch, and it's a big inconvenience for him.
No, I do think there is Dean is a fucked up guy. I think there is an aspect of misogyny in his being a witch hater specifically.
Yes.
Like that, like the way he's like, oh, these bitches. Because that is how he like thinks of witches. Is primarily, I think, a misogyny thing. And so...
Yeah. I think what he says in Relation Alpha Karma is he doesn't like how, like, messy their spells are, like, with dead rabbits and shit. But, like, I don't think that's all of it, bro.
Yeah.
Also, like, many monsters that you deal with leave a lot of gore in their wake, so...
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dean says that, no, it's my friend. He lost years and you have to give them back. This whole time, by the way, Dean is being gun boy by having a gun below the table where they're talking. And like when he says, well, unloose him, he cocks the gun so that it makes the cocking sound. And and Patrick is like, well, you can shoot me if you like.
You're right. He's bisexual. I take it back.
Literally.
He wants Dean to shoot his load into him.
No! I am so fickle about the fucking, like, body
you
fluids
really don't
thing.
like talking about the ejaculation part
Yeah.
of sex?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's why you couldn't stand the exhaust pipes talking.
Exactly. It's fine if he was fucking the exhaust pipe. He just can't come in it. Yeah. Basically, Patrick just goes like, well, if you really want the years back, play me. And Dean was like, okay, let's do it. And Bobby is also here now. And, Bobby is like, Dean, you can't do it. But Dean, who is pissed at Bobby still, goes like, I can do what I want. It's my years.
Yeah, which is what Bobby said earlier.
Yeah, but here we find out that the buy-in is 25 years. So that's the initial number of ships. And then, Dean goes, make it 50. And Patrick goes, I like the cut of your jib. Well, you're about to like Sam's cut of his jib more.
Yeah.
He does a little spell on the chips. And then, they go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And
real.
Yeah, it's years now. And basically, Dean gives away the 25. He cashes out the 25. I have no idea how poker works, so I could be misusing every single turn of phrase right now.
Yeah, me neither. Can't help you.
So Bobby gets magicked back to being his usual age of 59 years old. So the 25 years is on him now. And so he has to play the other 25 to get him back to his normal age. And so they play. And, well, guess what? Dean loses.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We don't actually see it. We don't, like, the only poker game we actually see in full pretty much is Sam's. Like, Sam is the only one we see actually play with
Sam
the three
was
of them.
the only one who got to finish. So.
Boo! Sam Winchester enters the motel, and in there he sees Dee Winchester, who is 50 years older. And in this podcast, you are now listening to me and Crystal, who are both respectively 2 weeks older. I don't know why I said respectively. We are both 2 weeks older. But yeah. It's been 2 weeks since
it's been
the last
weeks
part of this podcast.
Our last recording. Like we did half of it and then the things kept coming up in the middle of our recordings. So,
Exactly.
it's been 2 weeks and I don't remember a single thing about this episode. I think we were mad about it like 2 weeks ago, so
Perhaps so.
I guess I should recreate that emotion by remembering that Dean Winchester exists. I haven't had to look at Dean Winchester's face for 2 weeks because we haven't watched any new episodes in the time in between either. And it's been like a truly wonderful time. But anyway,
I've been thinking a lot about season 11 is what I've been doing.
Yeah,
So
didn't you watch 1101 on your birthday?
No, because
No?
by the way, my birthday was yesterday, and instead of watching 1101 like I planned on doing on my birthday because I'm a loser,
Why?
I instead
1101.
I instead went out and had a wonderful time with my family and friends. So that was horrible. I should not have done that.
Loser
And I
behavior.
Should have sat down in my room and watched season 11 by myself. Well,
Yeah, that should always be your first priority. What even happens in season 11? Amara?
yeah, Amara and like Cassifer and Baby happens in season 11.
Why did
Season
you
11
want to watch season 11?
Because I have
On your
many
birthday.
feelings about that season. And no, I was just like, it wasn't like I planned it on my birthday. I was just like, I'm gonna watch season 11 tomorrow. Oh my god, it's also my birthday. So, but
Well.
it's a wonderful season, or is it? I think it made me so miserable when I watched it, which is why I want to watch it again.
Okay, great.
Happy birthday!
Yeah. So Dean's old, and he's not being played by Jensen Ackles in makeup or Jensen Ackles in CGI. He's being played by a completely different person who I don't know the name of.
Yeah, do you think he's well acted here? What do you think? What are your opinions? What are your thoughts?
I
What is the
can't
vibe?
tell how much of my that's not Dean vibes are like because of the acting or just because he like doesn't look like older Dean. Like, it's hard for me to tell.
I think he does look like older Dean.
Really?
Yeah, but mostly because you have to suspend your disbelief with old people. Old people look nothing like how you think they looked when they were younger. And so I would
Fair.
presume young people look nothing like you think they would when they look older. So,
Okay, sure. That
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
does it?
I think the acting, he's just, I feel like he
I
delivers
think-
things slower.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
This having Dean be an old man, specifically like our conception of like a dirty old man, with like the flirting with the maid later and everything, like reveals so much of what makes Dean Winchester like. What are the things that make him endearing and annoying? Like if you list them down, you would realize through this episode that a lot of the reason why I and many people think that he's endearing is because he's an attractive young man. And that's probably literally it.
Wait, what do you find endearing about him?
No. I mean, like a lot of the things that Dean does are annoying. But
Yes.
it is less, like, biting to see. Because he's charismatic and young and
really?
attractive.
I think he was less annoying when he was old.
No, I mean, I
thought-
just mean like
yeah, okay.
his actions, if you transpose them to someone who is less desirable society-wise, would make you go, oh, I see why people don't like this guy.
Okay. Well,
So, yeah, I'm a
congratulations
shallow
on
person.
realizing that you're shallow.
Exactly. No, I just mean like even the way the show reacts to it, you know? Like the flirting with the maid.
Yeah.
I think
as
regular
in-
Dean, it would be like, oh, haha. But because he's an old guy, it's annoying. But I mean, I understand too. Whatever.
I think it's
Whatever.
being portrayed as wait. Okay, you think the show's trying to show that Dean is annoying?
Or that he's
With the
like, you know,
that
his
scene?
flirtation is out of place. Etc. etc.
Really?
Yeah.
I just saw it as like this would normally work, but it doesn't because he's ugly. I didn't see it as a comment on the appropriateness of the action
his
in any way.
actions. Ah. I don't know.
Just
Well,
like
I
the
mean-
joke is just that like it doesn't work anymore
Because
he's
he's old.
Like that's the extent of what they're trying to say.
Yeah, I suppose. I think it's just like, what does the imagery of this kind of blah, 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 blah.
What?
It's it's so hot. If everyone can hear me fanning myself like this sound, if you can hear that throughout the recording, it's because it's so hot.
Okay, yeah, you should probably tell us the number of degrees it is in your room, and then everyone can sort of add that as a qualifier to how much they'll judge you or not judge you for the things you say today.
Let's see. Temperature, redacted place, that is my city right now. It's probably not even that hot Celsius-wise. It says it's 31 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit is 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's 9 a.m., so it's gonna get hotter and hotter and hotter as we go.
It's pretty bad. I wouldn't enjoy being in that weather.
It's gonna be...
And your AC doesn't work.
Yeah. Azrael and Chloe are not talking, in fact. Why does it say, like, real weather and then feels like? What's that about?
Like humidity can cause more heat to be trapped in the air, so then, like, it feels hotter than, like, the temperature. I don't know. It's a thing. It's also, like, when it's, like, windy, it, like, feels like a colder temperature because of wind chill.
Yeah,
so.
but how would you know that if every temperature feels like something else? They should be Jessica in the fucking swimming pool.
Some way that they're probably like incorporating movement or density of air into this thing.
Well,
I'm
apparently
sure there's a scientific method. Yeah.
Apparently, it feels like 36 degrees Celsius right now, so that's kind of horrible. Whatever, it's so hot.
Okay, yeah. Let me.
Anyway.
Oh my god, that's too high.
Yeah, at the morning too. Like, it's the morning. Everybody shut the fuck up. And if I say blah, 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 everybody should forgive me.
Just like a zero fail.
Just like a zero fail. Well, whatever. I don't know. I was just like, I mean, because I always think that Dean is an endearing guy, but not always. That's a lie. I think sometimes Dean is an endearing guy, but a lot of that must come from, like, being, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt. And a lot of the benefit of the doubt must surely come from he is being played by an attractive man.
Okay, well, you just said a lot of unrelatable sentences, so I don't know how to respond to that.
It's why I kept on saying me and other people.
Yeah.
It's me and other people. It's not you and yourself.
Well, thank you for sharing your perspective, Gray. This is a safe space. I found him less annoying when he was old because he seems easier to fight off. So I guess that tells you all you need to know
and he
about
does,
how I feel.
They do try to, like, be like, haha, it's so funny that Dean can't climb the stairs, and Dean is, like, very pissy about it, which is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I did think, honestly, when when he was, like, fighting with Bobby in the graveyard, I thought that was hilarious.
It was pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he said something incredibly insensitive to Bobby. And I was like, that's so true. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember what this is due to. I remember nothing about the episode. We'll find out. Yeah. Anyway, so Sam sees this old man who is a stranger to him for now and freaks out, like, raises his gun at him, but Sam realizes that this is Dean, which is nice, I guess, that they recognize each other, or I guess just Sam recognizes Dean, because nothing's happened to Sam. And...
Well, Dean's eyesight was bad, so he probably is like, my god, that's why you look like blurry?
Sam says that Dean looks like Emperor Palpatine. I've never watched a single Star Wars. Yeah. That's from Star Wars, right?
Yeah, he's the one who, for some reason,
who somehow
returned.
Yeah.
So iconic. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Bobby calls him John McCain.
Dean literally is Bobby's favorite. Like, I can't believe this.
Wait. Who's Wait, like, why is him calling him John McCain favorite?
I don't know. I think. Wait, John McCain is a senator. Apparently, I thought he was an actor who played somebody.
No,
there's like a guy named
no, he's
McCain.
a Republican senator.
There's a guy named McCain who's an actor.
You're not talking about Steve McQueen, are you?
I all this time thought this was like a cowboy actor or whatever. So I was like, Bobby's complimenting Dean. Apparently he's talking about a Republican senator who I will not make a comment on the appearance of because I'm not a shallow person, Crystal.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Bobby have a dog named after like a different Republican like politician, like Rumfeld or something?
Yeah. We have had this. Yeah, we have commented on it. Yeah, I think. This is so... John McCain, biography, Vietnam experience, political, blah, blah, blah. I don't... Vietnam was a draft, right? So we shouldn't make fun of all Vietnam.
I mean...
People who fought there. Or should we?
Dodge the draft. I mean... Trump was
Springsteen
under fire for making fun of McCain for being a prisoner of war. So that's all I really know about his Vietnam experience. Anyway, Dean and Bobby have a bit of an argument about how this is Bobby's fault, but also Dean's fault. And Sam has absolutely no sympathy for Dean, like, being 50 years older now, so maybe it's fine that Dean didn't care that Sam is Lucifer's vessel. Maybe they just don't care about each other fundamentally. So
Sam literally the gaff.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, he
thinks it's funny.
He did do that giant bet that he did. Like, he almost blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It was fun to realize because when Sam went in to do the card game, I thought that he was doing
for real. Yeah, same.
And then he was doing it for Dean and Bobby with blah, blah, blah. But apparently it was part of the trick. And I was like, wow, he's double bluffing not only the guy, but also me.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, so Sam just thinks it's hilarious that Dean went to the witch that makes you old.
Dean is still like bitter with Bobby about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About just getting them into this situation. Bobby says, you just don't get it. Dean says, like, well, I can relate. Like, you just wanted to, like, not need to be in a wheelchair anymore, I can imagine. And Bobby says, no, you can't.
And
then Dean goes, you're right, I've never been paralyzed, but I've been to hell. And also there's an archangel there wanting me to drop the soap.
Oh yeah, this is a line that made me miserable when I first watched it. But when he was like, I've been to hell, I was like, my god, that's so funny that he is bringing this up. You know, D. Winchester can literally just be like, well, I did go to hell about literally anything. And he would probably be right. He did go to hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drop the soap line.
Yeah, I'm just like, how long are we gonna have drop the soap lines in Supernatural? Like, there's some point when they stop, right?
Well, I'm not sure. It's not something that one, knew the context of for the longest time, so
yeah,
I didn't know. It's not something I took into consideration. But yeah.
He says it's like in an earlier season as well, but yeah. Okay. And then he also complains that his junk is rustier than Bobby's. So anyway, so Dean's eating a burger and then he thinks he's having a heart attack, but it's actually acid reflux.
Wait, and why did it make you? Yeah. Why were you upset with the line? I was upset with
what
the
line?
line because of the, like, you know, Dean's awareness of, because like prior to this, it is very visible to us that like possession is a metaphor for sex, and so like Dean being convinced to say yes to Lucifer, like obviously, and the word consent is brought up a lot, so blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Is that also,
That
or
is
you just
true.
do not like that it's drop the soap?
I just think it's a phrase we need to retire. But yeah, you're right that it makes sense in this context given like what they are trying to do with possession and consent.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, the acid reflux thing starts like a thing throughout the episode where Dean experiences being old and
yeah, and being in
what
my
the-
body, pretty much. Like,
yeah.
you can have acid reflux at a young age. This is an
Yeah.
accepting space for everyone who has acid reflux in their 20s.
So true. And okay, also all the whole like Dean experiencing being old thing is supposed to later be like a way that he can relate to Bobby's disability more, right? Like they're trying to do that.
I mean, I'm not
on
sure
one
that's what
hand,
they're
like,
trying to do.
I think in a later conversation it
think
is
so?
sort of yeah, I guess we can talk about it when that happens.
Yeah.
So they discuss the case and they think that it's the poker chips themselves that are magic.
It's kind of stupid that they think it's the poker chips, I feel like.
Yeah, given that they know he's a witch, so it's like he can just do magic.
Yeah, I thought that was so contrived, and I don't know. I always thought that was like a trick that they were doing or whatever, but obviously not. I don't know. It's just, I feel like they should be smarter than this. Like, they've been hunters for so long, Bobby specifically. And Bobby's smart with this thing. Sam's smart with this thing. Dean also. I don't know why I excluded him, but yeah. Like, they're hunters is what I'm saying, and they've had experiences with these things. They should know that it's not the fucking chips. But I suppose they need to lengthen this episode somehow and also do the things that they do and get Sam to have an STD.
Yeah, so they decide that they are gonna head out to find the chips, and if Dean just takes 50 of them, he'll be young again or whatever. And then there's a knock on the door, and there is a maid there, and she is Asian and also pretty and things. So you, of course, know what is to happen next, which is, you know, she asks if they're ready for housekeeping, and Dean does like a lean on the door frame thing and like does like a flirty smile thing or whatever. It goes born ready. But due to how he is old, she does not want to fuck him.
She says you're just like my grandfather. He hits on everything that moves too. Which is,
yes,
I think, a way to put someone in place. Like, I was like, well,
yes,
that's a way to do it.
Yeah, sure is. And she also says, "You're adorable." And Dean goes, "And dangerous." And he looks very hurt. And the maid just goes, "Aww."
Iconic. I mean,
Yeah.
the girl,
I
iconic
mean-
for what she is. But also, like, the show is terrible. But it is always. So that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, the show is terrible. And yeah, the maid is iconic in that. I think that all of the scenes where it's like a woman rejects like Sam or Dean in like a sassy way, like, I don't like, this is like a scary situation given that like you're in the doorway to a motel
She's about
room.
to enter the room.
Yeah, like, and you're working, so like you have to put on like some level of politeness or whatever. Like, you do have to be very strategic about how you deal with customers perving on you. And like
she's also like, I think it's also the implication that if it was Dean in his regular age,
yeah, she'd just fuck
she'd be
him.
like, oh my god, I'm into you, but because he's old and that's why this is bad. And it's like, well, I don't know. This is like what I was trying to say earlier.
Bad in
that
general.
like
yeah.
like hitting on somebody working is inappropriate. But because Dean is usually in the form of an attractive young man, it's like it's fine. And I think like last episode, right? Like Dean was flirting with a nurse, and I was like, flirting doesn't count as harassment. But
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think maybe the nurse
You're
is
saying
different.
if he was old in that one, then you
No,
would
like,
consider it
no.
harassment?
No, but like what I mean is like the way the show interfaces with it is like whatever. Although I would still stand my ground that the nurse thing isn't harassment because Dean isn't the patient or the that would be different. But like
Yeah,
Dean
it's
isn't
also different.
It's not a service worker in the way that this maid is. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. But okay, wait. You had a main idea. Your main idea was that they're portraying the flirting behavior here as strange, whereas before they would portray it as normal.
No, the flirty behavior is normal for Dean Winchester, but the reaction is like, I don't know. I truly have no idea what I'm trying to say.
God, I can't believe Dean did that in front of Sam and Bobby. Like, usually he's, like, in a bar, like, several tables away, right? Like,
I think
they were
this is
right
like a
there. They're
posturing
in the
thing
room
also.
they would have had sex in. Like, what, he would have told them to get out? Like, what?
I mean, if this is Dean regular age, I don't think he would have done this. I think he would have, like, I don't know. But, like, the thing is, this is, like, posturing that, like, yeah, I look old, but just so you know, I still have it in me. And
No, but I think
like,
that the point is
whatever.
that Dean doesn't
Forgot.
remember that because he's old, people are going to react to him differently. Because he's, like, very surprised
I don't
when,
know.
like, she doesn't react
Supernatural.
as, like, he's
Who
used
wrote
to.
this fucking episode?
Sarah Gamble and Jenny Klein.
my enemy. Yeah, Jenny Klein unsure of her enemy status. But yeah, I think maybe they just did not consider it that way. They were just like, we need to have Dean flirt with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, like, it's funny that now that he's not hot, people don't want to fuck him anymore. That's it.
Oh, so Sam, Dean, and Bobby are seating in a van, like Bobby's van. And they're like spying on the place or whatever. And Patrick comes out of a building. This is actually a very fun scene. So he is like, you know, waddling around on the street and he's checking his watch and he goes, it's time. And he crosses the street when suddenly this car that is, I think, a fancy sports car or whatnot, hits him. And it, like, literally just slams right into him and he's dead on the floor. And I was surprised when this happened. And so is Sam, Dean, and Bobby. Like, it was pretty funny to see their faces be like, huh? What the fuck? But, yeah. When the driver comes down and is, like, trying to assess the situation, when suddenly we see that Patrick is in the car.
Yep.
And he's driving away with the fancy car. And when Dean, Bobby, and Sam realize this, Dean goes like, well, I mean, I kind of like the guy, which honestly, we all do kind of like the guy. Dean, you're not special, especially Sam Winchester. Well, and then Sam and Dean, like, go to a building where Patrick is. And Bobby can't go in because it's inaccessible, the building. The elevator is also out. Sam and Dean have to climb up the stairs. And there's this bit where Dean is climbing up the stairs and he's like doing the old man climbing up the stairs thing. And Sam is waiting for him in the landing. And then Sam just looks at him, looks to the side and points to the number 2 on the wall. That it's the second floor. And there's a zoom. And I was like, Bobby Singer, I am in you.
What?
No, it's I'm on to you. Bobby Singer, I'm on to you. And I literally am.
Does Robert Singer go by Bobby?
Wait. Yeah, I suppose he does because everybody is like Bobby is named after Robert Singer.
Yeah, no, but they could have just changed his like Robert Singer might just go by Robert Singer in his life, but they took inspiration from him for character names, but didn't want to like take the most common iteration of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Robert Singer, I am on to you. Okay, is that fine?
Yeah. Yeah. God. It's like, it feels like 97 degrees Fahrenheit where you are. It's okay.
And then, yeah, they end up in a room. They go in. And they end up in a dial. No, not a dial. A safe with a dial. And Dean is like, this is so easy to do. And he starts doing it. But because his eyes are fuzzy and not clear.
They couldn't, like, get him some glasses?
It depends. You can't just get glasses if you have astigmatism. So, you need... If it's just a far-sighted, nearsighted thing that you can get glasses immediately at the store. Sam eventually is like, dude, just let me fucking do it. And he does. But then, as they're grabbing the chips, Leah, who is the girl from earlier, who was talking with the older man, who is with the older man, comes in.
And she is wearing Supernatural's classic black dress for evil women.
She's wearing her evil woman black dress outfit. And yeah, it is so annoying that they do this. Like, season 11 comes up, Amara is wearing this. Like, what? To be fair, they do put Amara in Harry Styles suits afterwards. So, good for her.
Thank God.
Yeah, she is here and she is a witch. And as she was like attacking them with her witchy powers, Patrick comes in and realizes that they're dating and that they're together. Patrick tells Sam and Dean that like, you can just get the chips if you want. It don't matter. And he also reveals that he's a 900-year-old witch. Very fun.
Yeah.
And
good for him.
He says, if you want to win them, well, win them the old-fashioned way. Texas Hold'em. And I do always find fascinating the episodes where Sam and Dean don't beat or kill or eradicate the monster. It's always interesting when they do it. Like in Bugs, when they just ran away. I mean, Bugs had many issues, problems, disorders of its own. But that was the first one, I think, where it's like, we can't solve it. Like, let's just go away. And then, I don't know, when else have they done it? Do you have a recollection?
I don't remember.
I've forgotten. But I'm sure they've done it again. But this one too, like, at the end of this episode, Patrick is not dead or stopped from doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's just, like, you really can't beat him other than Texas Hold'em. And I think that is a fascinating to do.
You can beat him, though. Like, they knew how to do the spell. They just gave up as soon as Dean was, like, safe.
This is true. You're right.
Like, I thought that they were trying to kill him because they thought that, like, his whole game thing was causing more harm than good or whatever. But no, it was just to save Dean's life. Like, he literally could, like, he picked up the wine glass with Patrick's DNA on it, but then he turned young and he just left the wine glass there and, like, left the apartment and was like, I don't care anymore. Pretty strange.
It's because they're trying to do Patrick Sam endgame at some point, so they can't kill him today.
Yeah, Sarah Gamble was leaving one of her sick fantasies on the shelf for later.
Yeah. Sorry that was said about Sarah Gamble.
It wasn't even about Sam being bi. It was about something else. And she probably does have sick fantasies.
Dean was like, okay, fine, let's play. But Patrick says, well, your eyesight is so bad. What number is this card? See? You can't even see it. I'm not a murderer. But he's like, Sam, how about you, though? Do you want to play with me, Sam? Sam? really want to play
Sam. Hey, Sam.
But yeah, Dean was like, no, don't do it, Sam. Because apparently Sam is not that much of a player or whatever. But Patrick is like, okay, fine, do your own thing. And he's like, but before you go, Dean, you are being punished already by your life in and of itself. But Sam, I need to give you something just for the fun. And then he claps 3 times and gives Sam the clap. So,
And that was gay sex.
well, yeah. Have safe sex, everybody, or whatever.
Yeah. So true. God. And he's gonna have genital herpes and changing channels.
Literally. That's like
Season
next
5
episode.
really is the Sam STD season. Good for him.
Yeah. So like we realized that it's the clap because as they're going down, Sam is like, I'm so uncomfortable. And he keeps on like moving around his thighs and stuff. And Dean is like, well,
Yeah.
you have the clap, bro.
They're going back to the motel. Like, Bobby has some difficulty getting up a slope. And, right, so Sam is still saying that he wants to try playing the game, but Dean and Bobby both say that, like, no, you can't, and you're way worse of a player than either of us. Bobby wants to go again because he thinks he understands Patrick psychologically or whatever, but Sam says, like, no, you'll die if you lose, Bobby. And then Bobby goes,
Yeah.
So what if I do? What exactly am I living for? The damn apocalypse? Watching men die bloody while I sit in this chair, can't take a step to help them? Which, I mean, isn't true already due to how he's sent them on cases and things, but, like, whatever. Like, obviously what he's saying is, like, wrong, and just because of, like, his situation, and they do say that later.
Yeah.
But
I do feel for Bobby because
yeah.
the apocalypse. Like, I think
Yeah.
we've talked about it, like, in his first episode or whatnot. That, like, that seems to be, like, a big part or even the most major of his concern. That, like,
Yeah.
it's truly the fucking apocalypse.
Yeah.
And this is,
pretty
like,
bad.
an additional big problem on top of that already for him. And it's like, yeah, sorry, Bobby.
He says that he's old and broke down. And he says, I ain't 100 no more. I'm useless. And if I wasn't such a coward, I'd have stuck a gun in my mouth the day I got home from the hospital. And everyone's just quiet. Because, I guess it is hard to come up with a good thing to say in this situation. But at least they get to it by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And
By making Sam leave the room.
by making Sam leave the room. Sam just says, like, no, you're not playing again. There has to be another way out of this, and I will find it. When they go back inside the motel, Leah is just there.
She's just
And
hanging
she
out.
gives them a piece of paper that is apparently a powerful reversal spell that's gonna undo all of Patrick's work for everyone he's played who's still alive. She confirms that if the spell goes through, like, both she and Patrick will die. And Bobby's like, well, why would you want us to succeed with this? And she goes, I have my reasons, and looks meaningfully down at, like, this necklace that she has.
It's
And, like,
so corny.
It's really fucking corny. There's, like, multiple times during the episode where she just looks meaningfully down at her necklace.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, I think is it, like, does Sarah Gamble think it's, like, a hashtag big reveal that it's, like, her child's
died?
picture in there and not, like, a love interest or something?
I don't
Like,
even
is
know
that
what the
what the
fuck they're
point
trying
is?
to reveal. I truly have no idea.
Yeah, it's just corny as fuck, is what I think. And I thought it was either a child or a partner, like, of equal probability. So Sarah Gamble didn't subvert anything for me.
It should have been like a picture of
was.
Sam and Dean in there. And it's like, what? Why? Why? That's
She's
subversion. Like, maybe she has been watching over Sam and Dean all her witchy life, and she's like, these are my children, and I shall protect them. And that's a subversion. Who'd have done?
Sure, I mean, it would be quite bad, but it would be a subversion.
It would be one of the more horrible things done in Supernatural, which is saying truly a lot.
Yeah, like, they would have named this one Jump the Shark.
Exactly. What if it was Adam in the locket? Like, what is this?
What if? And she says that they have to do it fast because she and Patrick leave town tomorrow, so I guess there's some kind of a distance thing on this. And then she goes, yeah, oh, also an important costume designer thing is that now she's wearing, like, a jacket over her evil woman in supernatural black dress. So now she's, like, a normal, nice woman because she's not just wearing the evil black dress. And that's what you call ingenious costume design. Very subtle way to indicate changes in character.
Like when Sam says, you're nice for a witch, it was for no other reason than the fucking jacket.
That she was wearing a jacket over the evil dress.
Exactly. Well, Sam goes to Patrick. Yee. And Patrick is playing a card game with some old man. And I think we are made to believe that he loses on purpose when he folds. Except I know absolutely not a fucking thing about poker, so I don't know. Eventually he's like, see, you're 13 years up, like, why don't you just cash it in, call it a day? And then the guy Hesh is very happy about this. He's like, oh, thank you. And he's an old man, so he's probably gonna be what, like 60 now instead of 73 or something. And yeah, Patrick is like, see, Hesh is gonna see his granddaughter's bat mitzvah. Like, isn't that so wonderful, Sam? See, I'm just a good guy. I'm just a little good guy. And yeah, even
Sam, do you like me now? Sam, was that hot of me? Do you like me?
Yeah. Specifically, Sam says, that was nice of you. And he goes, I'm a nice guy. It's probably not even that funny, like, when you watch it. But I think it's absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
Indeed.
But eventually, Sam sits, they play. Fun stuff. Bobby and Dean are in a graveyard. And they have to look for a jawbone of a murderer. So Dean is shoveling, and he is very tired. He's complaining and complaining and complaining. And he's talking about his elbows and his knees or whatever. Yeah, Bobby's like, oh, one little grave and you're so annoying about it. And Dean goes, then you do it. And Bobby goes, fine, I'll hop right in. And Dean goes, well, at least your legs are numb. They are pretty funny. I did think this was funny.
This did happen, like, right after Bobby said he's suicidal over his disability. Like, maybe not the time, Dean.
Maybe they should have reshuffled these fucking scenes. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was like, I don't know. It's like to bring levity to the situation. And then because they do address it at the end of the episode. And in a way, it's like Dean doing his usual comedy to whatever. Although I do think this is a little less like he's trying to be funny on purpose. And I think
he's just mad about his back hurting.
Yeah. No, like, because you know how, like, throughout this episode, Dean has been, oh, well, how are you, Bobby? Like, are you okay, Bobby? How are you doing? And that, I think, must be irritating for Bobby, who obviously doesn't really want to talk about how he really is. And so having this instead of like Dean not being so careful with Bobby, I think there would be an aspect of it that is satisfying or gratifying, you know? That like Dean is not seeing me as like some sensitive object that needs to be talked with so much care and consideration. Like he can just go, "Oh, at least your legs are numb," and it's like there is an aspect of that's a normalization of the situation.
Yeah,
I think that's how I
true.
felt about it.
Yeah, but I don't think that Dean is thinking of that consciously though. Like he seems to just be reacting based off of being annoyed that his back hurts.
Well, I suppose so, but I'm sure there was that consideration when writing this. Because I don't know, was that not something that you thought of immediately when you were watching this?
No, I just think that when Supernatural wants to be funny, they like think that they're a different show. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't
Yeah.
seem to like consider their jokes like part of serious canon, so it's just like a separate world for the writers.
Okay. Well, it was my first immediate thought upon watching this that is what they're trying to do. That
It's
like
possible.
and it's not like from Dee's perspective, he's not doing it intentionally. I think you're right. It's just that from Bobby's perspective, that lack of intentionality can be like a better feeling. Yeah. But
Agreed.
yeah, at some point Bobby like diagnoses Dean with sciatica and he's like, "You'll live, just keep on fucking digging." Yeah. And Dean goes, "You know what, Bobby? Killing you is officially on my bucket list." Yeah. They're what's Sam say? It's like grumpy old man, and it literally probably is. I've not seen that
whatever that
show
is.
or movie or book or whatever cultural thing it is.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so Sam's playing his poker game. Patrick's chewing on the toothpick that he's always chewing on. He says, "I like you, Sam." So true. And he does.
And he literally does. Patrick, Sam, Endgame.
Yeah, and then he says, "I do," like foreshadowing what he will say at their wedding in a few years.
Yeah, their four-way wedding between Patrick, Sam, Rowena, and Eileen.
Exactly. Yeah, they're gonna legalize it. It happens in the Supernatural universe.
Exactly.
And he says, "You're smart and your heart's clearly in the right place," which he probably also says as part of their custom vows. And Sam doesn't answer, but we'll work on it. He'll get there. Patrick says that he can tell a lot about people by looking at them. And Sam goes, "Oh my god, you mean you're psychic?
Like
just like me for real? Are we connecting? Is this a date?" But Patrick says no. It's just intuition. And I do think it's nice that smart and heart in the right place are like the two big things about Sam here. Like, aw. Yeah. They start playing. And Patrick asks if Dean knows that Sam is here, and Sam doesn't answer. He just plays. As they're doing the playing, Patrick is sort of trying to goad him, because he's like, "Oh, I can't believe that, like, they're putting you at the kiddie table when you're cleaning up their mess." The situation is that Sam's playing, like, very carefully, like he's only doing like 5 chips or whatever at a time.
He calls him a calculator player or something.
Like he's playing the percentages. Yeah, he's just trying to get Sam to bet bigger or something. They keep playing and Sam keeps being cautious. And Leah comes in to make out with Patrick, I think, because she's aware that Sam's like trying to get some Patrick DNA for the spell or whatever, and Patrick wants to take a little break from the game,
They should have
So-
just made out and Sam went out and like spit in a bucket or something.
Real. So true. Yeah, no, that would be the way, but I don't know. They weren't ready for it yet.
Yeah, it's the real Judas kiss.
Exactly. So during the break, Sam goes outside to consult with Dean for a bit, which is our reveal that, like, oh, he's in on the plan. It wasn't like
Yeah.
a big miscommunication thing. And that was fun. And yeah, so Dean and Bobby have every ingredient of the spell except for a little he-witch DNA. And Sam hands over the toothpick that Patrick was supposedly chewing. And so he's going to go back in and keep playing the game to distract Patrick as they do all the burning the spell shit or whatever.
But like, yeah. So Dean and Bobby do the spell, and every ingredient like flares up into a blue flame, except the last one. And they were like, oh, okay, well, that's it then. But Dean doesn't change back. So R.I.P. But, and so Sam and Patrick back inside the bar. And Patrick is like, I have a question. Is this what you meant to give your big brother? And he like takes out a toothpick of his jacket, I think. Or maybe not. I watched this episode 2 weeks ago. And yeah. It's like, oh no, it's the wrong one. But Patrick goes, well, the one you gave him never passed my lips. And I don't like cheating, Sam. And then he like... Sam, like, starts, like, gasping for breath as Patrick chokes him out. And
Yeah, he is. No, he's dying for real.
he's dying for real, for real. Love has become fake. Yeah, but Leah is like, no, Patrick, it wasn't me. Let him go.
And I have a photo of Sam and Dean in my necklace.
Exactly. And yeah, Patrick is like, why would you do that? And Leah opens his neck. Leah opens her locket and reveals that she is secretly Mary Winchester. Yeah. But eventually, no, she just touches apparently her silver locket.
Yeah.
And she goes, you know
Corny
why?
as fuck.
It's so stupid. You remove all the locket stuff. Like, keep the lines, remove all the locket stuff. It's probably fine. Like,
It still
it's
works.
probably fine. But it's just so corny like this. But eventually Patrick is like, okay, well, let's keep on fucking playing. Yeah. But Sam and Dean, no, Bobby and Dean trying to go up to the apartment. And yeah, they ought to get something that the guy has touched. Eventually, Patrick like says that he's gonna kill Dean or whatever.
Well, just that Dean's gonna die of old age.
Sooner than what he ought to. Or like he's just supposed to die right
No,
there.
I think he's just gonna die of old age.
I am confused.
I don't think Patrick
about-
sped it up. I think it's just like that was
80,
Dean's lifespan.
and that was it.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. But eventually, Sam starts panicking. He's betting everything. All the things. And he looks panicky. He looks, he looks it. But eventually, Patrick is like, oh no, Sam, this is like really bad that you're doing this. And like, I don't know. There's
'cause
poker
he,
and then there's
he's
suicide.
all in.
Yeah, he put all his chips in. And then eventually it's revealed. Oh, by the way, Dean's dying like in a corner.
Yeah, on the floor. This ain't about him.
This is not about him. This is about Sam and Patrick.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually Patrick is like, well, Sam, I'm sorry you lost. Here are my cards. And Sam breathes a sigh. Like, and you're like, both Patrick and Leah are like, It's because he lost. He's breathing a sigh of grief or whatever. And Sam looks over at Leah and he goes, "You're crying. And for a witch, you're so nice. It's actually kind of creepy. It's okay." And then he looks at Patrick, who is now like collecting the chips. And he's like, "Oh, you lost, Sam." He goes, "It was a great hand, just not as great as." And then he puts down his 4-4. No idea what the fuck that means. But yeah, it's wonderful, I suppose. And he won. This is so stupid. We know nothing about poker. This is like later when we know nothing about billiards. And I'm just going to be like, and Dean won, I suppose. Patrick is like, "Wow, that's awfully great game that you did. Like, going out of your head, very method." And he goes, "Well, there's more to you than meets the eye." But Sam doesn't interact with that. He should have just like, "Yeah, of course, there's more to me. Do you want to know, Patrick?
Do you want to see the rest?" But yeah.
He the gaff. But he will in the future. Or will he not? They don't interact after this ever again.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick doesn't come back.
Yeah. Eventually, Bobby, who, oh, by the way, like, Bobby has been hearing all this time that, like, Dean is dying on the phone, and then it goes quiet. And Bobby's like, Dean, you're dead, Dean. Oh my God, Dean's dead. But then somebody comes out of the place. And it's Dean, and he's 30 again. He does the little jump that he does in every AMV where he's happy.
Yeah. And as we mentioned before, when Dean was in the apartment, he had found a wine glass that Patrick's mouth had supposedly touched, but he's not carrying it when he comes down because they didn't want to do the spell to, like, help anybody else. They just wanted to do it to save Dean, and that's it. And I mean, I think it's fine. I think they purposefully show us, like, the guy, like, who won 13 years earlier, because it's like, oh no, if they reverse the spell, then he's gonna die. So it's like, I guess it is the case that most of the people who lost have already died, so most of the people that the spell would reverse would be, like, people who turned younger. So, like, I mean, I'm not saying that they should have killed Patrick, but they don't really interface with the fact that, like they should have had one discussion about how, like, they should have had a discussion about first, like, the future people that will probably be killed by Patrick's game, and also if they decided not to kill him, then, like, they should have been, like, most of the people who he made old, like, died already, and we don't want to hurt, like, that guy from earlier and et cetera. So yeah, strange behavior. And last thing, okay, Sam asked Patrick to cash all of the chips in for Dean. Like,
yeah, how's that?
Couldn't he split them up? Like, couldn't he like, Bobby got injured like less than a year ago. Like Dean can be like 28 or whatever, or 30. How old is Dean?
He can be 31 instead of 30.
Yeah, he can be 31. Like, I feel like if you hear that Bobby's in this much distress, then, like, you can at least be like, can you hold for a second? I'm gonna ask Bobby if he wants this year. Whatever. I guess you can't split them up, or just the idea of Dean being 31 is just so horrible. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, also, like, they are waiting for Bobby to for Crowley to show up, for Crowley to show up and have Bobby's legs be fixed by Crowley. I don't know, like, perhaps they had that in mind and they were like, okay, but how are we going to show that Bobby is experiencing emotional turmoil? And they thought of this and didn't think of it further than that.
Yeah.
But they really could have just given Bobby the fucking ear. Patrick and Leah have a scene where it's so out of the blue. It feels so odd. Does anybody else feel this way? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I feel like Leah's just like an OC that like
Leah
Sarah
is-
Gamble or Jenny Klein got like overly attached to, even though she just doesn't have much going on.
Yeah. She has one thing going on, and it's treated like a giant reveal.
Yeah,
it's like, well-
it's like I don't get it.
Yeah, but what it is like Patrick and Leah are like in love, I think. But Leah is having doubts about this whole immortality thing and she opens her locket, and it's a picture of a kid and a very old woman, and she says, "When I buried my daughter, she looked like this." And it's, it's distressing for her, I suppose.
Why couldn't she have given her some years?
No idea. Like, teach her how to play poker. Like, come on.
Yeah.
She goes, "When I buried my daughter, she looked like this," and points at the old lady. And she goes, "It's not natural." So true. Maybe it's even supernatural.
Supernatural, yeah.
And yeah, Patrick is like, "You knew when you decided to come with me what you were going into. And this is what you wanted. You're still young. You're so beautiful. You have me." Truly a series of traits and characteristics to point to a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leah says, "I miss my family. Sorry." And I don't know, what is the context of this? Like, if she dies, she gets to be with her family? Obviously
in
not.
Hell? Like, what's up? I think it's just that she misses them too much to go on without them or whatevs.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, do witches go to purgatory or like...
No
To
idea. I
heaven
think they
or
go to hell. I mean, I think they go to hell because Rowena goes to hell. And, like, I think the concept of a witch is that they sell their soul for
their
powers.
soul- Right.
Or something. And Rowena goes to hell. Or they worship the devil or whatever. So, Rowena goes to hell and becomes the queen of that thing. So,
True.
Patrick goes, "I thought you loved me." But not like that. Not like that. He just says, "I thought you loved me." And Leah goes, "I do. It's just that I thought I was cut out for this, but I'm not." And Patrick's like, "I can't do this without you." And yeah, Leah says, "Well, you were doing it
You can
before
still
me."
kill people, Patrick.
Yeah.
You can kill people without me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they both go all in, whatever. And Leah loses. And she grows old very, very fast.
It's horrible CGI. It looks like shit.
Yeah. And Patrick is emo. And that's
Yeah.
it. That's the end of their story,
Yeah.
the both of them.
Yeah, I guess she and Rowena can meet up and be like opposite ends
This is
of
true.
the witch career woman spectrum. So there's that in her future. So back at the motel room, Sam's being happy about his victory, his real poker victory, and then he needs to head out to get a booster shot for his gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And now that Bobby's alone with the person he loves as a son and not as a coworker, they can talk. And
That started out as a joke, but it's becoming more and more real every day.
no, like it is real. It's real.
True. It's true.
Dean says that he's sorry about calling Bobby an idiot. And okay, this is where I think they're like trying to say that Dean experiencing being old has made him understand Bobby's situation more, where he says like, "I get it, getting old ain't a bachelor party and dealing with the crap you gotta deal with. And like, if I was in your shoes," and Bobby goes, "you'd never stop complaining," and it's because Dean was in his shoes and never stopped complaining. And like, I mean, I think that is fine, just because like you do like become disabled as you get older. That is just part of it. And like the things that like Dean was dealing with are like part of the disability spectrum. It's not the same as being paralyzed, and I think it's kind of done like sloppily, but like I am fine with the general idea of that. And then he tells Bobby that he's not useless, and Bobby just tries to ignore this. And then Dean gives him a speech that I think works for the characters, like who they are. So I guess that is fine. Like, that is the point of the speeches, for the characters. He starts with, "You don't stop being a soldier because you got wounded in battle." So true. Being disabled is okay because our troops are disabled.
My God.
I mean, that is the logic that he's working off of, which, yeah, I think, again, makes sense for Bobby, but it's just not, I don't think it is the place that, like, disability justice, like, should come off of, but yeah.
For Bobby, perhaps it does make sense.
Yeah, it is a direct response to, like, I'm not a hunter anymore, and they consider hunting the same as being a soldier. And Dean also considers torturing people in hell the same as being a soldier. He says that no matter what shape you're in, you're family, and me and Sam, we don't have much left. I can't do this without you. So don't you dare think about checking out. I don't want to hear that again. Again, I don't think helpful in a general circumstance for Bobby, probably. Yeah.
I think that I don't want to hear that again. It's a bit too much, but all the other stuff, I think I don't know, like there is this idea that I've been hearing. It's not a good form to tell someone who's suicidal that, like, if you kill yourself, I'm gonna be hurt, because that's like breaking them. And it's like, well, I think it works. So sometimes. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure for some people it doesn't work. It's a
personalized thing.
Yeah, it's one of those ideas that, like, it sounds good on paper that, like, oh, you shouldn't further guilt people who already feel bad. But, like, I think there is, like, a huge spectrum and a huge, like, path towards recovery. And, like, maybe in the future when the person is less of a suicide risk, that would be, like, an appropriate mindset to have. That, like, oh, it should be, like, the person... it should be removed from other people needing them, the worth of a person and the value of their life. But I think in, like, you know, when it's this straightforward that, like, Bobby thinks he's useless and that's why he's suicidal, it's like, well, he is useful, and the way I can communicate that, like, in Dean's perspective, is to say that he's useful to Sam and Dean. And it's like, it works.
Like, emotionally, Yeah, I think it does make sense as a response to
what he said earlier.
But I don't want to hear that again is like, well, like, so if he feels like this again, like, just he should just up, keep Bobby. That to himself and, like, not reach out. Okay.
But yeah, Bobby is like, Bobby
okay. Goes, okay.
He doesn't say that.
He goes, okay. And then he goes, are we done feeling our feelings? 'Cause I'd like to get out of this room before we both start growing lady parts. Okay.
Wow. Okay, misogynist.
Okay, misogynist. Well, what a line. It's so much. It's a lot. And I guess the point is that it's a lot in response to how uncomfortable he is. Like, it's like, I gotta be extra misogynistic to feel normal again. But, like, I don't think it's very helpful to do like a don't kill yourself because you feel useless because of your disability, but like also talking about your feelings is like a woman thing to do. Like,
especially because of the I don't want to hear that again.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
it's like a double whammy of like,
yeah.
like being suicidal and talking about it makes you weak. And like, yeah, like there are people who are watching this who probably related to Bobby in like an earlier scene, and I feel like you gotta be more sensitive about that audience during this scene. So, yeah, well, Sarah Campbell.
Yeah. And then the final scene of this episode. So Dean is like, okay, let's go. And then Dean like starts heading out, and he's about to get a burger or whatever. And then he's like, nah, not gonna get the burger. And Bobby's like, oh, really? And Dean's like, yeah. And then that's it. It is a pretty funny ending in that I'm like, why? Why is this the end of this episode? Okay, sure. Let's go.
Yeah. Are they like, wait, Sam went to the clinic. Where are they going? Didn't Sam take the car?
No, Sam took a walk, and now they're...
Oh, Sam took a walk. Yeah. Well, probably Patrick picked him up in his sports car, and then Sam got his booster shot so that they could have sex in the back seat after.
Wonderful. Well, what did you think about this episode? I completely forgot what I said that I thought this episode was like. I think it's fine, is what I think.
Yeah.
But mostly I think it's been so long that all strong feelings have dissipated.
Or are fireproof, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's fine. It's not funny sometimes. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it is fine.
I mean,
Patrick was a fun
Asian
character.
Thing.
Patrick was fun. Patrick was fun, so that was fun. But yeah. I don't know. What's the next bit?
Best line, worst line.
Well, what is the best line of this goddamn episode?
I like you, Sam. No, I think it's another Sam Patrick one. What does he say? We could make a player of you yet?
Yeah, like, no, give me some time.
Nice
and Sam goes,
I have
time.
I could make a real player out of you. And Sam goes, I got time.
Yeah,
like, so
wonderful.
True. If Dean wasn't about to start dying right then, like, they could have gone somewhere.
I have no idea what my best line is, but my worst line is all the he witch lines.
Yeah,
it's like... It's more mind-boggling than anything. Like,
yeah.
What? Well,
I don't know. Like, it's such a weird, like, defensiveness. Like, I need to defend, like, the castle of manhood by, like, being like, it's so weird that there's a witch who's a man. He's not a regular witch. He's a he witch, and that makes him icky. Like, what is this? Then, yeah, I guess my worst line is Bobby's, let's get out of this room before we both start growing lady parts.
Shall we spread those
reasons.
shades?
Yes.
Yes, even.
So, okay, misogyny exists.
Fundamentally, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the
I think
intersection of misogyny and racism for the sex workers and the maid, and then I don't know, Leah's just really corny, but I think she's not that much. Yeah,
I would say it's a 2-2 for misogyny and racism. Do you think?
There's also the he witch and the lady parts.
Yeah, let's bump it to 3.
I'd say there's a 3 in the misogyny thing. Yeah.
How about the homophobia?
Yeah, the he witch stuff does feel homophobic as well.
But I think it really leans more into misogyny because they don't make gay jokes about Patrick, only we do that. So
that's true. And it's not jokes, I'm being serious.
Yeah. We're being so for real right now. So, yeah.
So, no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, IMDb. What is our MDB?
On the lower end?
On the lower. Well, you're the one who's supposed to guess first.
Yeah,
so
I
go
have
for
to
it.
guess first. 8.2.
8.2, really? I'm gonna go for 8.5.
Okay.
Because I think this is, like, not the most beloved, but I don't think people hate it. Okay, let's see.
Okay.
Oh, it's an 8.7.
Oh, that's high. What?
Higher than I thought also.
Yeah. God, I'm doing so bad this season.
Yeah. It's because you won last season and this is my revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Everybody's saying it's, like, insightful, fun.
Insightful. How?
Nice villain. This one says nice villain. Yeah, it is. The one thing I hate in this episode was the makeup. Seeing young people going rapidly into old age with this horrible, less believable makeup was a pity. But I enjoyed the show anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I hated the most was the misogyny and racism, so I don't know about that, buddy. This one says it's their all-time favorite Supernatural episodes, so it's one
What
of.
year
Sorry.
was this?
2010. So, yeah. At this point, they had a few. This one says, I give this show a 10 out of 10, a royal flush, which is probably really fun if you know anything about poker. Oh, this one doesn't!
Oh, thank
For
God.
the first time in 89 episodes of Supernatural, this episode has let me down. I found both the storyline and directing faulty. Robert Singer, call out!
Robert Singer.
It had nothing of the,
It didn't
of
have
the quirk or the drama.
It has plenty of quirk. It has a bit too much quirk.
Yeah. They were trying to make too hard to make it funny and did not succeed. At times with scenes left out of place. The jumping in front of the cars. Why is that out of place? Spell cast on Sam. That was gay sex. The digging of the body. That was funny.
And that was for the murders. Bones for the spell.
Yeah. This one says like it was like jumping from one scene to another. The only time I felt that was with the last scene with Leah, but that was pretty much it. So I was left with the impression that Jensen Ackles might have told the scriptwriters that he needs to take a personal day and they had to whoop up at a moment's notice. A teleplay for an episode without him, and they just didn't have time to polish it.
Well, maybe so. Who knows?
This is so... One thing I am sure of, if I can watch the previous episodes time and again, this is the one exception that will remain at one viewing only.
I just like all of them, like all.
This was
like,
in 2009,
like,
so prior.
Chuck is like wonderful. Like
this is so a fascinating look into a psyche of a person. Like imagine watching that episode where Dean calls Sam gay for knowing fairy tales. That was so useless. That episode was so pointless. And being like,
really bad.
I would rather watch that 100 times than watch this episode a second time. Well, what else? Well, it's like they don't even care about Bobby and his development as a character. And I don't, but like it's like you don't either. Well, that's it for this episode of Association Beauties. Next episode, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 8, Changing Channels. Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast. Yeah, Cass is gonna show up and he's gonna look like a pretty boy, I think.
He's gonna have tape over his mouth.
Yeah. I watched that episode more recently than I've watched a lot of the future episodes of Supernatural. And it is fascinating how little Cass like is in there. Like he's in there, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything.
Like,
he just shows up.
Something's going on.
Hi, Dean. OMG, yeah.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is babpod, BABpod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at badpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.